Welcome to Correspondents' Diary. I'm Saifulbahri Ismail. In 2018, two Indonesian islands, Sulawesi and Lombok, bore the brunt of powerful earthquakes and tsunamis that left nearly 5,000 people dead. 1 year later, I returned to the city Palu in central Sulawesi, where most of the fatalities occurred, while my colleague Chandni Vatnani traveled to Lombok. We look at the government's efforts to rebuild the affected areas, find out how survivors get on with their lives after the disasters, and climb Indonesia's second highest volcano after it's reopened to visitors. Around 3,000 people who survived last year's earthquake in Indonesia's central Sulawesi are still living in emergency shelters. The 7.4 magnitude quake hit the province on 28 September 2018, triggering a tsunami that wreaked havoc on the coastal city of Palu and its surrounding areas. More than 4,300 people were killed and 170,000 others made homeless. Suhayati has been living in this tent with her husband and a child for a year now after her rented room was destroyed in the disaster. Thousands of others are also living in more than 500 tents in various locations in Palu, the provincial capital of central Sulawesi, where most of the fatalities occurred. Even though the government has built temporary shelters for the survivors, Suhayati says they are only for those who owned property before the quake.
Seandainya memang berhak dapat, saya pengen pindah. Cuma jangan dulu, saya nggak berani saya asal masuk. Nggak berani, saya ikuti dulu prosedurnya dulu. Soalnya katanya kalau orang bekos itu nggak dapat huntara. Katanya kalau dimasuk huntara, katanya disuruh keluar karena tidak punya hak.
The 48-year-old woman survived the quake that sparked tsunami waves as high as 6 meters. In some areas in Palu, entire neighborhoods were swallowed up by a rare phenomenon called liquefaction, which turned the ground into a roiling quagmire. The government, with help from humanitarian organizations, have built temporary shelters in different parts of Palu to accommodate about 25,000 survivors.
Kita masukkan duluan ya pastilah yang pemilik rumahnya yang terlikuifaksi, yang tertsunami. Bagaimana dengan orang yang ngontrak kos dan lain sebagainya, yang menumpang? Boleh sepanjang yang sudah prioritas ini masuk semua, masih ada yang kosong, masih ayo kita isi saja, kan begitu.
In fact, there are still rooms for up to 2,500 survivors. But authorities say some of the survivors living in tents do not wish to move to the shelters because of the location. They say it's too far from where they used to live. Nurjana is among those fortunate to move to one of the temporary shelters in Palu. The 43-year-old is even more pleased her temporary home is different from the other shelters. Hers is made of bamboo. These houses were built by Kun Humanity System, a humanitarian group that focuses on disaster relief and mitigation. Bamboo is the choice material as it is strong, light and moves flexibly in earthquakes. There are 12 units of these bamboo houses in Poboya village in Palu. What is interesting to note is that the villagers participated in the construction of these houses. It took 6 people a total of 3 days to complete building one unit. Survivors in temporary shelters can soon move to quake-proof permanent homes. The local government has pledged no one will have to live in emergency shelters before the end of the rehabilitation and reconstruction period in December next year. But for Suhayati and her family who are already living in the tent for 1 year, the wait continues.
2018 was a tough year for Indonesia. The country was plagued by a series of disasters. Just a little over a month before the Palu earthquake, the West Nusa Tenggara province was hit by a lethal quake that killed over 500 people. Its North Lombok Regency, which is where I am right now, was the hardest hit. The quake damaged at least 60% of residential areas here, and hundreds of thousands of people were forced to leave their homes.
August 2018. Tauhid's life was turned upside down.
Terasa kiamat kemungkinan bagi kami. Kenapa? Pada tanggal 5 Agustus itu saya tidak bisa berdiri. Jangankan berdiri, kita duduk aja sampai kita terpingkal-pingkal gitu.
Tauhid's house was destroyed in a magnitude 7 earthquake that struck the northern part of Lombok, the hardest hit area. His wife and children survived, but most structures in their village were reduced to rubble.
Rumah yang dibangun itu sangat banyak sekali gitu, bahkan di satu dusun itu sampai 200-300 rumah yang ambruk. Sementara kita kekurangan tukang, sehingga itu yang menghambat cepatnya pembangunan ini.
There is also a shortage of other supplies like cement and light steel. The government is building thousands of quake-resistant homes for the survivors of the earthquake. Construction began in September last year and was initially expected to conclude in 6 months. 18 quake-resistant home designs are available.
This is what a house meant to withstand earthquakes looks like. Although construction for this particular house is currently underway, concrete pillars will encase wooden planks with these iron rods inside, and ultimately the houses will have light steel roofs like what has been done there.
26-year-old Widya Sukma Artati has been staying at this government-sponsored temporary home for the last year with her husband and 2 children. Her home is one of 13,000 in Lombok, which has yet to be built. She doesn't know when it will commence nor be completed. Recently, the local government in Lombok allocated an additional $185,000 in the budget for disaster mitigation. But this isn't enough.
Kita ada di BPBD ini sekitar 6,7 miliar. Ini tambah 2,6 itu, maka sekitar 10-an jadinya kan. Nah, tapi ini masih kurang karena kita 10 kabupaten kota di NTB dan jenis bencana kita cukup banyak. Kemudian jumlah penduduk kita 5,5 juta kan, untuk yang harus diberikan pemahaman.
But for survivors of the earthquakes, their main priority is to get back on their feet.
Welcome back. You're watching Correspondents' Diary. I'm Chandni Vatnani. I'm in Lombok, Indonesia's second biggest tourism destination after Bali. I'm here to see firsthand how the people of Lombok are coping 1 year after a series of deadly earthquakes.
The streets are empty in the resort town of Senggigi on the island of Lombok, where tour operators like Ketut Eka Adnyana make a living. The 43-year-old runs a small tour company about 500 meters away from the beach. He says business hasn't been the same since a series of earthquakes devastated parts of Lombok in 2018, killing more than 500 people and displacing 150,000.
Kalau dulu mungkin yang bisa transaksi sama saya mungkin sekitar 20-25 orang lah yang bisa. Sekarang baru 25%-nya lah ada di musim ini.
Last year's quake inflicted over $800 million worth of damage and is estimated to have cost Indonesia around $100 million in tourism revenue from foreign tourists alone. Just 10 minutes away from Senggigi by speedboat across blue waters lie Lombok's most famous destinations, the Gili Islands. On Gili Trawangan, the most popular of the 3 islets, things are slowly returning to normal. Tourists are scattered across the beach, spilling onto streets and checking into hotels. But a year ago, it was chaos, with thousands of people trying to flee amid damaged buildings.
Over 8,000 tourists were evacuated from the three Gili Islands, with over 3,000 of them coming from this island, Gili Trawangan alone. Hordes of people gathered at this very spot to get on the boats that would take them away.
Ahmad and Kusuma, who manages Hotel Black Penny, says Lombok must be ready if another disaster strikes. Indonesia is located on the so-called Ring of Fire and is frequently hit by earthquakes.
Mengedukasi masyarakat, pelaku pariwisata, dan juga bekerja sama dengan pemerintah dan pihak terkait untuk memberikan sign atau mempetakan daerah-daerah yang mungkin ketika terjadi kembali.
The West Nusa Tenggara Tourism Agency, which oversees Lombok, says it could take time to convince tourists to return. But tourists I spoke to were undeterred by last year's events.
There happens a lot of environmental violence in Indonesia, so it's every year or the year after that or the year before, so every year it's kind of the same, so we're not very afraid of it.
And those who depend on tourism in Lombok want everyone to know that the island is ready to welcome back visitors. Next, my colleague Saifulbahri Ismail catches up with farmers in central Sulawesi who are rebuilding their livelihoods after the devastating earthquake.
This is what's left of a once lush, green and fertile paddy field, the source of life for many farmers in Petobo district. It's now a vast wasteland, empty and forsaken, after a 7.4 magnitude quake in September 2018 triggered a tsunami and caused buildings and farmlands to sink into the ground. Hectares of land are no longer productive in the district, which used to be the center of agriculture in Palu, the provincial capital of central Sulawesi. Ramang Pedo used to own 1 hectare of rice field in this location. He was distraught when he saw what nature's wrath did to his land.
Memang terus terang saja Pak, rasa kehilangan kita karena sumber kehidupan pada situ. Ia menghidupkan anak, menyekolahkan. Dari sini kita mendapatkan uang Pak. Jadi sekarang lapangan kerja Pak memang susah.
The earthquake triggered soil liquefaction, a geological phenomenon that causes the soil to lose its strength and stiffness, turning it into liquid. The effect was devastating. Thousands of houses and people were swallowed up, farmlands destroyed.
This used to be an embankment where water coming from the nearby Sigi Regency flowed through here. Water from this embankment was so important, especially to farmers, because it was used for irrigation to the many paddy fields in Petobo. But the earthquake that caused the liquefaction phenomenon has destroyed the embankment completely.
With the embankment now unusable, farmers can no longer grow rice as it needs to be cultivated in flooded conditions. They are turning to crops like chili, corn, onion and tomato, which require less water. Compared to rice, those crops can be harvested more frequently and fetch better prices. The local government has provided assistance to farmers by giving them seeds and technical advice. Although securing water supply, especially during the dry season, is a challenge.
Kami membuat sumur bor dengan sistem membuat bak. Nah, alhamdulillah dengan sistem atau metode yang kami bantu itu, alhamdulillah panennya lumayan ya, menjanjikan, dan itu akibat memberikan dampak ekonomi kepada petani usaha taninya mereka, maka semangatnya juga bangkit.
The Palu Agriculture Agency says agriculture production in the area has increased by about 65% after the disaster. 1 year on, farmers in Petobo like Ramang may never get back what was taken away from him. But the new crops have given him strength and reason to believe all is not lost.
Earthquakes not only destroy important crops, but they also alter the landscape of the affected areas. Next, we look at how fishermen in Palu, Central Sulawesi, rebuild coral reefs after last year's quake and tsunami. But before that, my colleague Chandni Vatnani will share her experience climbing Indonesia's second highest volcano in Lombok after tourists are allowed to return.
Right now, I'm at a camp at Mount Rinjani, one of Lombok's 2 top attractions and Indonesia's second highest volcano. Mount Rinjani reopened for visitors this June after the deadly quake. I'm told that the earthquake put the spotlight on a lack of safety measures for climbers. Officials told me that they now have a new set of measures to place greater emphasis on safety. I'm here to find out if that's true.
31-year-old Sahnan has been a porter for Mount Rinjani climbers for 4 years. It's a back-breaking job. He has to carry logistical supplies for climbers to the top of the mountain, prepare food for them along the way, and pitch their tents.
Okay, that was extremely difficult to lift. As you can see, I was struggling to get it past my knees. Now, this is just a testament to how difficult the jobs of the porters are, who carry such heavy loads day in and day out, risking their lives as they carry these loads to dangerous mountains.
At 3,627 meters high, Mount Rinjani is also sacred to the local Sasak people and the Hindus from Bali. Its summit attracts around 80,000 climbers a year, but the trek to the top is arduous.
Kita harus menjaga tamunya ya biar nggak kesana kemari, biar tetap kalau lagi standby harus di dekat tenda biar ada pengawasan dari porter maupun guide-nya.
Sahnan was at Rinjani's famous crater lake, Segara Anak, or Child of the Sea, when a 6.4 magnitude earthquake struck Lombok in July 2018. He was one of about 600 climbers stranded at the lake because of heavy clouds and fog. Around 600 others were trapped at the summit because of consequent landslides. One climber from Malaysia died. Rescue operations that lasted for a few days were launched to bring the climbers back to safety. Then, a bigger quake hit parts of Lombok in August 2018, killing more than 500 people and displacing 150,000 in North Lombok, the hardest hit area. Tourism in Lombok, Indonesia's second biggest tourist destination after Bali, was left in tatters. The Mount Rinjani National Park Agency closed the hiking trails. Visitors were allowed to climb the mountain again in June this year, but with limited access.
Untuk di kami memang belum ada, dan kami susun karena setiap SOP pendakian itu setiap lokasi punya spesifikasi yang berbeda.
Climbers are now required to buy tickets online, priced at 35 US cents for locals and $10 for foreigners. Their movements will be closely monitored. Only between 100 and 150 hikers are allowed to use 4 trails a day, and they should not leave garbage behind. After the quakes, the Mount Rinjani National Park Agency also formed associations for guides and porters, as well as trekking organizers. The agency provides training for porters like Sahnan, who earns $17 and 50 cents per day. The reopening of some of the trails is good news for Sahnan, who had to farm to earn a living when Rinjani was closed for several months. In fact, we are one of his first customers. In the final part of the program, my colleague Saifulbahri Ismail takes us to the Bay of Palu in Central Sulawesi, where fishermen are working hard to bring coral reefs back to life after the 2018 quake and tsunami.
Fishermen in the Indonesian city of Palu in central Sulawesi have taken the initiative to start restoring corals which were destroyed by a powerful quake and tsunami last year. They are transplanting corals to regenerate reefs to lure fish back to the bay. The 7.4 magnitude quake killed more than 4,300 people and damaged much of Palu city. 1 year after the disaster, parts of Palu's coastline is still in ruins. A grim reminder of nature's fury. Giant waves smashed hundreds of fishing boats. Surviving fishermen were unable to go out to sea for several weeks. There was little the local government could do to help. Ahmad Maliki lost his boat too, but he refused to give up. The 46-year-old fisherman built another boat from debris left behind by the tsunami. Within a month, he was fishing again. But there are fewer fish because the tsunami had wiped out all coral reefs, an important ecosystem to sustain the fish population. Palu Bay's once pristine coral reefs are now an underwater wasteland.
Jelas kurang. Karena terumbu karang sepanjang bibir pantai ini semua tidak ada sama sekali, rata semua di bawahnya. Saya sudah selami ini ada sekitar dalam 17-18 meter kedalaman, sama sekali tidak ada karang. Habis, rata semua.
But Ahmad and other fishermen in Mamboro village are trying to cultivate the lost corals again. It's their own initiative. Staghorn coral is chosen for the transplantation because it can grow quickly. The fishermen are still catching fish around Palu Bay, but now they have to venture out to sea to find more.
We're about 100 meters away from shore, and this is the spot marked by white foams where the fishermen drop the coral seeds on the seabed. The coral seeds lie at least 4 meters deep. They can't be too close to the surface because the seeds will die if they're exposed to direct sunlight.
The fishermen's efforts have attracted non-government organizations who are keen to help.
Kita mencarikan link-link pihak-pihak yang bisa mensupport apa yang ingin dilakukan warga. Misalnya satu, soal siapa yang menanam di laut. Artom punya relasi dengan komunitas diving di Kota Palu. Kita carikan, ini nih, warga butuh teman untuk menanam di Mamboro. Mau temani tidak? Mau.
It will probably take a long time for the coral reefs to be like how it was once before. But Ahmad is consoled that at least his children and grandchildren will get to benefit from the fruits of his labor.
Indonesia's location in the Pacific Ring of Fire makes it vulnerable to natural disasters. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions and tsunamis are common in the world's largest archipelago. In his State of the Nation address in August, President Joko Widodo said Indonesia must be ready to deal with natural disasters. It's a grim reminder that the country still needs comprehensive actions and plans to deal with these risks. It's a race against time. Thank you for watching this week's Correspondents' Diary.